Hey, you guys, welcome back to Sunflowers Life Coaching and Motivational Speaking podcast. So, first of all, I know I was MIA last week and I was supposed to upload a video Monday. Not a video, sorry. This is my first time uploading a video, so I will be putting this on my YouTube channel. But I was supposed to record a podcast on Monday, and this week has just been hectic and crazy, so I didn't have enough time and I forgot. So before we get started, I want you guys to go ahead. If you are watching my YouTube channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can hit me up and tell me you want my free life coaching journal ebook, and I will email it to you. Or you can say, hey, I really need some guidance and some direction in my life. Hit me up. Like, I am the coolest person to talk to. Like, the first session is always free. The consultation is always free. And whenever you call me, we can always go into details and I can tell you what to expect and how we're going to handle things. Also, while you're stopping what you're doing, okay, picture it, Sicily, 1967. I want you to go on over to Facebook and I want you to type in that search engine and I want you to type in Sunflowers Life Coaching and Motivational Speaking. My picture will pop up. You know, there's sunflowers everywhere. If you see sunflowers everywhere, it's definitely me. So let's go ahead and get started with the topic for this week, y'all. Boom, boom, pow. But before we get started with the topic for this week, I tricked you, didn't I? We're going to talk about everything that we've been talking about these last 2 weeks with trauma. So the first time we talked about just, regular old plain smegular trauma, which is just an experience that is distressing and disturbing, and it changed the way you think, but it only happens once. And so that's what we consider acute trauma. It's something that happens once, but it's still disturbing enough to change the way you think, right? The second one is chronic trauma. So we talked about chronic trauma 2 weeks ago. Not last week because I missed last week. It was my birthday. So we talked about chronic trauma. And chronic trauma is whenever someone is exposed to, multiple various long-term traumatic events, right? But it happens over just an extended period of time. It's not once, it happens all the time. So now this week we are going, and I am going back and forth with my PowerPoint. So this week we are going to talk about complex trauma. So complex trauma is the third tier of trauma. Okay. So like I said, we have acute and we have chronic. We know acute happens once. Chronic happens over an extended period of time. Complex trauma. So I'm going to give you guys I'm going to give you guys the definition for it, and then I'm going to break it down so you understand it, right? Y'all know how I do. I try to make it relatable so we all can understand. Okay, complex trauma occurs when a person is exposed to various and multiple traumatic experiences or situations. What you mean, sis? What you mean? What do you mean? Boom, boom, pow. Picture it. Sicily, 1967. Somebody is being mentally abused. Somebody's being physically abused. Somebody is being emotionally abused. And then you take all of that and somebody in their family dies. And then you take that and they were in a terrible car accident. And then you take that and then they lost their job. All of these different experiences and all these different traumatic events can create a complex trauma response, especially if the person does not get it checked, if they don't go seek professional help to try and get it fixed. Let me tell y'all now, the problems that come along with complex trauma if you don't get it fixed. Whew. Let's just go over, let's just go over a few things that causes, complex trauma. I just named a few, but let's go with some more. Family disputes. You know how you got that family. You got that family. Listen, when I met my wife, I told my wife, listen, my family is a rough ride, okay? Like, I have a really nice family. I love my family to death. I would not trade them for anything in the world. But baby, do not throw a block party and all of the halls are there. Don't do it. And especially if there's drinking involved, because it's going to be, entertainment for somebody, not for me. But no family is perfect. None is perfect. And I love my family just the way they are. However, we know how to show out. They know how to show out. They know how to show out. And that can be traumatic, especially if you're a child and you don't know what's going on or you don't know what's happening. And you were just thrown into this mix of everybody showing out, everybody acting crazy. Not everybody is like that, but it can be traumatic for some people, or even within your own family, even if you're married to a man or a woman and y'all have children and there's domestic violence in the household. That can cause traumatic, complex trauma within yourself as well as your child. Whatever you go through, let me tell y'all something. Kids watch everything. Kids notice everything. You can try to act like everything is all peachy and everything is good, but baby, let me tell you something. Little Susie, she know you in that bathroom for 10 minutes because you crying. Little Susie, she know you walk into the car to get a breath of fresh air because y'all arguing and you need to clear your head. Your kids watch everything you do, so you have to be very mindful because it's very easy to make a simple situation turn into a complex trauma. Very easy. And once you go down that rabbit hole, baby, it's hard to get out. It's like you have to claw stairs into the clay around you to crawl yourself out of this rabbit hole. You got to get it checked. I'm telling y'all. Childhood trauma. Whew. I don't know if you guys watched my self-esteem podcast. I keep saying watched. I don't know if y'all listen to my self-esteem podcast, but within all of my self-esteem podcasts, I always revert back to the past and childhood trauma. Why, girl? Why? Let me tell you why. Everything you do, every emotion you feel, and every reaction that you have is all based from your childhood. And if it goes unchecked, you will grow into an elderly adult not knowing why you still have anger issues. You will grow into an elderly adult not knowing why you don't sleep well at night. Okay? Everything from your childhood, whether it was good or whether it was bad, every experience impacts your mind, and whether it's in your subconscious or whether you know what it is. But the basis to figuring this out is whenever you have these emotions, and I know I'm kind of detouring, but I got to get this out. Whenever you are having these emotions, you really need to sit down and think about, when was the first time I felt like this? Why did I feel like this? What made me feel like this? You have to sit down and now let me tell you, this is a disclaimer. This is a huge disclaimer. If you are not good at coping with pain, you need to seek a medical professional before you decide to dredge up old demons. Okay, I want to put this out there. You need to seek a medical professional before you decide to dredge up old demons. And I say this because you may not know it or you may not even think about it, but stuff that happened to you in your childhood that you think doesn't bother you, baby, on some level it bothers you. And when you get to sitting down and you get to really thinking about that stuff that really bothers you, you don't know how it's going to affect you. Okay, so I cannot stress this enough. Find a therapist, talk to a therapist, a licensed social worker, a clinical social worker, a psychologist, anybody that you need to figure out these old demons and how you can face them with strength and with power. You know, me growing up in a Christian household, I was told all you need is Jesus. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You need Jesus. But baby, you need something on the outside and on the inside. You need your internal spiritual beliefs to keep you holding it together on these weeks that you can't see your therapist, and you need that external belief system that can help you through this rough ride. Okay? You need both. And what's that saying? Prayer without work is dead. You can't pray this stuff away. You got to actually put in the work yourself. Okay, it's not just gonna disappear. You got to actually try and work and get this up out of here. Whoo, y'all, we stayed on that a little long time. All right, neglect. Neglect. I am going to explain this, and then I am going to give another disclaimer. Okay, so whenever you are neglected by people you love, whether it's a parent, whether it's a favorite cousin, whether it's that man you've been in love with since the 5th grade, neglect is neglect. It's really like rejection, because you hold it in, and when someone neglects you, you feel like you are being rejected. And that feeling of rejection, it can come out in many, many different ways. Okay. Y'all know I'm transparent. Oh, y'all see my food droppings. Y'all know I'm transparent. Okay. I did not do well with rejection. Okay. As fine as I am, and somebody rejected me, baby. Listen, okay. I don't do well with rejection. I don't like it. I don't like the feeling of it. I don't like how it makes me feel. And that's okay. But now that I am older, I know how to cope with it. Okay. So my father died when I was 15. And prior to him dying, yes, he picked me up. Yes, he took me fishing. Yes, I got to see him on, some occasions. However, he was not there every day. Okay. I didn't get to wake up to you in the kitchen cooking breakfast with my mama. Didn't do that. I did not get to run home from school because I know you were going to be at home. I didn't do that. And so a lot of people say there's daddy issues, but we can be transparent. I might have a little bit of daddy issues, but that's okay because I'm grown and I'm making it now. So with that being said, that caused some complexes within my life. Now, let me tell you, we're going to talk about this next time. This is going to be on our inner child podcast for next week. So let me tell y'all about some of the complexes that I deal with. Superwoman hero syndrome. I have to do everything myself. Everything has to be perfect and to a T. And if it's not perfect and to a T, baby, I'm flipping out and I'm acting a fool. I'm telling you, I know this. I am working on this. And that's okay, because I'm going to get past it, okay? We're going to work on it together. We're going to move on straight past it today. But if you have a hard time dealing with rejection, again, my disclaimer, you need to sit down and figure out why you have such a hard time with rejection. Was your daddy there? Was your mama there? Did your favorite cousin kick you off of the slide so that his best friend could go down the slide? There's different types and forms of neglect and rejection. It's not always, oh, my parents didn't raise me. It's not always, oh, my boyfriend left me for another girl. It's not always that. There's different forms of rejection, and you really need to figure out what it is that makes you tick. And if you never figure out what it is that makes you tick, how you going to move away from it, sis? How you going to move on from it, sis? It may be a hard pill to swallow, but baby, you got to figure it out. And you got to get in that mud. Okay. Symptoms of complex trauma. Let's go here, okay? Guilt and shame. I grew up in a very religious family. What's that saying? I may be Christian, but the old me is still up in here. That's my family. That's what I grew up in. And with me being a lesbian, me being gay, and I came out when I was about 13, 14. I think I was about 13 or 14 when I came out. That didn't go well. That did not go well at all. Every Sunday I was in the pastor's study, which is my uncle. Every other day somebody was calling so they could pray over me. Every other day, somebody was putting anointing oil on my forehead. And after all of that long period of time, it did not change what I liked. I married a woman. I'm still gay. It didn't change any of that. But what it did change was how I felt about myself. There are times when I felt guilty for being in love with a woman. There were times when I felt ashamed for being in love with a woman. All of these complex traumas that are created within a childhood, you grow up and you feel these emotions. And for the longest time, I didn't even know that was the issue. I was in and out of relationships and I couldn't understand why I couldn't commit to one woman, or why I didn't want to stay in a relationship for a long period of time with one woman, is what I meant to say, not commit to one woman. But why I couldn't stay in a relationship for a longer period of time. Now, I was in a relationship that we was together for almost 8 years, right out of high school. But even then, I had issues with our relationship. And it took me until after she and I broke up and went our separate ways. It took me a long time after that until I was able to say, okay, you comfortable with yourself. Okay, you still being blessed. God's still listening to your prayers and he is still hearing you. What do you feel guilt and shame about? It took me a very long time to get over that. And sometimes I still struggle with it today. But I have to look in that mirror and say, sis, get yourself together. Get your life together. Feeling different. I don't know about y'all. I'm weird. And I'm okay with that. Today, I'm okay with that. But again, here we go with this childhood. I was always that cousin sitting in the corner reading a book. While the rest of my other cousins are out. Back then, it wasn't called twerking. They was putting their legs on the wall and shaking their butts or doing the crybaby. The crybaby, that's what they did. They were doing the crybaby or something like that. That wasn't me. That wasn't my style. That's not what I did. And so because I did not fit into their world, I felt different. I didn't have friends. I had friends at school, but it wasn't close-knit relationship friends. Like, I have a best friend. We're still best friends to this day. But we don't talk every day. We hardly ever talk. But even then, she and I, we bonded so well because we both felt different. We both felt like outcasts in a world that was completely opposing to our views and our mindsets. Preoccupied with revenge. Baby, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. You gotta let that hurt go. I understand Billy down the street did you wrong. I understand that. But you got to learn how to forgive him, but not forget. And let me tell you why. You got to forgive for yourself. But if you forget what he did, then you're going to end up right back in that same cycle. We're not doing that. No, we're going to forgive you because that's just who we are. That's in our nature. That's what's going to make us feel better about ourselves. We're not forgiving you for you. We're forgiving you for us. But we will never forget what you did. I can forgive you and I can never talk to you again. That's not me holding a grudge. That's me protecting my peace. That's me protecting my sanity. And that's me protecting my anxiety. Okay? I don't need you to be in my face. Nah, you good. What you did was a red flag. And it's cool. It's cool. Because I caught that red flag. You ain't have to throw too many. Because of the person I am, you might have to throw about 4 or 5 red flags because I'm just that type of person. I keep wanting to give people the benefit of the doubt. But once you get to that 6th red flag, cut off. I'm done. I'm so done. Self-harm and mutilation. What does this mean? So, self-harm and mutilation. I was in high school and I knew this girl. She did pills. But not only did she do pills, but and when I say she did pills, I mean she took pills to get high. She also cut herself. And so if you pulled up her sweater, or if you pulled anything up, you could see she had cuts. Just tiny little cuts going all the way down her arm. And me being a kid, I'm like, oh, you crazy. Oh, you crazy. That's me being a kid. Hindsight 2020, I should have consoled her. I should have said, hey, let's go get you some help. But that's what I should have done. I should have been more open-minded, and I should have tried to understand what the issue is. Okay? Drug abuse and addiction. These two kind of go hand in hand. You know, drug abuse is pretty standard. Addiction is pretty standard. That comes with all forms of trauma. All forms of complex trauma. That's just how some people cope. That's how some people deal with their issues. And that's how people make it through so that they can get through. Okay? And I say this all the time. Listen, when I lived in... Where did I live? I lived in Seattle. And I was working at this hospital. And the hospital was right down the street from... It was like maybe a couple blocks from where I lived. But there was also this store that was right across the street from where I lived. And every day when I got off, I always went to this store. And so it was this homeless man out there. He was always saying nothing. He always said, hey, beautiful, how was work? Said this every day. Hey, beautiful, how was work? I'll talk to him. You know, if I cooked, I always made sure I made enough so that I can take him a plate. And one day we got to talking. And he asked me, you know, do you have a couple dollars that you can spare? And I said, yeah, it's no problem. I gave him a couple dollars. And he got into the story and the history of how he became homeless and addicted to drugs. I think that was one of the most touching stories I had ever heard. Okay? Simply because not only he got into the situation not because of himself, but because he was too trusting of others. But instead, and some people may look at this as a weakness, but I view it as a strength. Because even though he was in that situation, he was still smiling. He was still happy with himself. He was still confident. He was still making it do what it do. Yes, he was homeless, but baby, he had a smile on his face. I know plenty of people who got a roof over their head, shoes on their feet, and driving a car, and they are angry and miserable with life. Okay? Suicidal. A lot of I bought this shirt that I am wearing. It's called, I got some grease on it. It says outside my mind. And then let me stand up so you can see. So right here it says fear is scratched out, suicidal, anxiety, and depression. They're all scratched out. And this shirt is basically, it comes from a company. I'm going to have to find the company and I'll tag them in the comment section. But they work on awareness for mental illness, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations, these natures. And this is such a sensitive topic to talk about, because I feel like whenever someone gets to that situation, they're viewing themselves as being weak. But making that decision is not a weak decision. But they're even stronger when they come out on the other end. When they survive it, they come out on the other end, and they're so much stronger after that experience. Okay, isolation, loners, people who isolate themselves and just want to be by themselves and don't want to be around anyone else. You know, people who have trouble attaching to other people, people who have detachment issues. What is detachment? Okay. Have you ever been in a relationship? Any kind of relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a family relationship, any type of relationship, it doesn't matter. And you felt like y'all here. You thought y'all was making strides, and you thought y'all was making some type of connection. Y'all face to face. Y'all right here. But you can't get no further than this. You can't get no further than this right here. You can't get this. You can't get this. You can only get this. People who have issues or trouble with attaching to other people. Complex trauma. They've been through some things in their life. And it's going to take a lot for them to get over that complex trauma. And it's going to take an even stronger person to be there for them through it all, because it's not an easy process. Baby, it's being with me. It's not an easy process, okay? But once they heal from it, it'll no longer be an issue. Hopelessness. I don't know if you ever felt like everything was just you just at your wit's end. You don't know how much longer you can go. You don't know how much longer you can do this. You just don't know. You just feel hopeless. You feel like life isn't going to get any better. You feel like you're never going to find a new job. You feel like you're never going to be happy. Hopelessness. Lack of trust. Lack of trust. So, trust is a very easy thing to lose. And it's a very hard thing to gain. So you know how they say trouble is easy to get into and hard to get out of? That's trust. People who have trust issues have been let down by everybody. Not just oh, you know, I said I was going to pick you up for Jesus, y'all, I got choked. I know I said I was going to pick you up for that party tonight, but Sarah, my other best friend, the one I met 3 weeks ago, I know we've been friends for 5 years, but the one I met 3 weeks ago, she asked me to go out with her, and I totally said yes. And so now you no longer trust them. But that's not going to make you not trust everybody. Okay, when someone has a lack of trust of everybody, it's because everybody they have come into contact with has let them down on some form or another. Okay, and whether you let them down intentionally or not, people who have trust issues, they are going to dissect you like a frog. If your hair is out of place, why your hair out of place? If your phone is flipped over upside down and it's on vibrate, but you normally have it on loud, and all of a sudden today it's on silent, why is your phone on silent? If you get your ears pierced, y'all, I know I'm being outlandish and extra, but that's just me. I'm just trying to give you guys some examples. People with trust issues, listen, I'm trying to tell you. Now this one, the last one, change in personal self-concept. What that mean? What that mean? What you mean, sis? How you view yourself. When you look in the mirror, do you see a queen? When you look in the mirror, do you see a king? When you look in the mirror, do you see confidence? Do you see self-assurance? Do you see self-love? Do you see hope? Do you see happiness? Do you see a bright future? Or are you stuck in the past? Are you stuck on what your ex from 7 years ago said to you? Are you stuck on the fact that your brother let you down? Or are you stuck on what your mama called you when you was a baby? People have a way of getting into other people's heads. But at some point, we have to become responsible for what we allow other people to get into our heads. If we continue to allow people to get into our heads, then we're giving people too much control of ourselves. Okay? If for any reason, any part of complex trauma has affected the way you see yourself, baby, I want you to stop, and I want you to look in the mirror, and I want you to say, you a queen. You a king. You deserve nothing less than the best. Okay? You guys, that concludes our podcast and YouTube video. I'm kind of doing them at the same time. That concludes everything for today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, because it is Friday. It's Friday, y'all. So happy for Friday. Cheers to the freaking weekend, okay? I want y'all to have a wonderful weekend. I want you to look into that mirror and I want you to say, I am beautiful. I am enough. And if to you I'm not enough, baby, to me I'm more than enough. My cup runneth over with all this self-confidence. You deserve it. I love you. Have a great... Oh, hey, stop what you're doing again. Go on over to Facebook and send me an email. Like and follow the page. Tell me to tell you that I said to tell you to send you a copy of that free e-journal life coaching. Sunflowers Life Coaching e-journal book. Bye. Drop some comments. Tell me how you enjoyed the show.